computer. Perfect. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first English episode of the podcast named Kreativno, svoja. I was thinking about English version of that name. It should be like creatively yours or yours creatively, something like that. Never mind. I want you to first introduce you to my guest today, which is a very special one. We met in Spain during the break. She's in the sustainable fashion industry. She's from India. So please, everyone, welcome the Maithili and her brand name Buno Behen, which she will tell us later a little bit more about that part. So Maithili, how are you?
I'm good, and yeah, thank you for that introduction. So, hi everyone, my name is Maithili Chodankar. And as she said, we met on the break in Spain, and right now it's summer, so mood is up. It's all sunny, it's nice. We are not experiencing the heat wave yet, so for now,
Lucky you.
lucky for sure.
So just for our listeners, and if this ends up on YouTube, I'll probably update the video as well. So for the viewers as well,
Yeah.
you are currently in France, but you are originally from India.
Yes. So I was born and raised in Mumbai. I've lived there for 28 years of my life before I moved to France. And now I've been in France since the past 4 years. So I live in the western coast, not exactly near the coast, but the western part of France.
Great.
Although, if people want to know, but it's a very tiny village, so I don't think a lot of it's near Rennes. It's near the coastal part.
It's 30 degrees there, while we are all cooking ourselves on 40 degrees. So we envy you so much. But let's start on the business. Thank you for your introduction. And could you just please now introduce you to your business idea a little bit, or your brand? It's not anymore idea. It's actually business.
Yes. So the name of my brand is Buno Behen. Buno Behen means weave sister in Hindi, which is like a language spoken majorly in India. And the idea of the brand was really it's like a culmination of all my ethics put together. So I've always wanted, I love fashion. I've always been in fashion. I've been a fashion blogger, a fashion writer, a fashion marketer. So I always knew I would eventually do something in fashion, but I wanted it to have a positive impact on the people and also our planet. We don't have endless resources, as you can see. We're right now in a very bad heat wave. So I didn't want my business to be part of the problem, but wanted it to be a part of the solution. So Buno Behen is essentially eco-friendly, ethical, and in France we say solidaire or solidarity. It's a solidaire brand. And the idea is really to connect female artisans in India with a global market. So what we do is we work with different NGOs, self-help groups, cooperatives in India, especially female-owned and female-run. And we kind of use ancient techniques that have been a part of our culture and has been in the country for, I don't know, hundreds of years, and we create a contemporary collection with it, and then we bring it to France and Europe and we try to market it. So the idea is through the brand to give sustainable livelihood and promotion to these beautiful and amazing women groups that already exist in India. So that's the globality of the brand. And it's been a year. So this, I mean, last month was 1 year anniversary. We no, in May, sorry, it was it launched on my birthday, so it's been 1 year.
Yeah, while listening to your pitch in Spain, which was the part of our The Break program, I mean, we were all moved. Hopefully, investors as well, because they were listening with us. So now, when I already mentioned break before we move so much into the business and sustainable fashion, maybe can you share your experience of how was it for you in Spain and with us?
Yeah. So do they know what the break is, or should I just introduce it?
Well, for those who don't know, I already filmed one episode for my
Okay.
creation people about the break, but if I can again
No, I
repeat
can.
myself. It's about the EU program, which is done in Spain for EU women entrepreneurs to come gather around in Spain in various places and then together work on the local challenge and on our own businesses. So,
Yeah. So we all, I mean, me, Ivana, and 14 other people, we went to Pay Basque, which was not super summery when we landed there somehow. But I think the experience for me was really good from a networking and kind of having a community, because I'm not originally from France. So it's a little difficult to kind of, especially at a certain age. I think I'm like 33, so people already have their groups, and their friends are already kind of set. So it's a bit difficult to find friends or to find people in business and just to know other women in business. And I think on that aspect, I think the program delivered for me. I met you and like 13 other entrepreneurs who were amazing, and as you know, we do keep in touch quite regularly. So I think that for me was really invaluable, just to know other women in business and just to share experience, even if it's not the same field necessarily. Just because it's also since all your listeners are mostly entrepreneurs, it gets a bit lonely,
oh
especially if
yeah.
you're a solo entrepreneur. You do everything yourself, so I think sometimes it's just nice to have like a support system around you.
Yeah, and I think that break delivered in that point because I mentioned in our very first meeting, I think you were there in our original group. I was in these four walls and I just wanted to break from these four walls. And the Spain absolutely amazed me, all of you as well. And we are still keeping in touch, which is awesome. Maybe for our viewers, I promised Maithili to film this episode, I believe on the first day when we landed in Fobes.
Yeah,
So yeah, and it's happening finally.
finally we are here. It's happening.
I love your critical thinking because when we were discussing, I don't know, about vegan stuff, vegetarians, etc., a lot of different topics, and you weren't keeping only black and white. It was always some gray area in between all the good and bad stuff about every single topic, and that's like I have to invite you no matter when it's gonna happen. So I'm so happy that my listeners will be able to meet you now as well. So maybe let's talk now about sustainable fashion. I done my research because
Yes.
this topic is more and more spoken about in Croatia as well. And the numbers which I found out now just before this podcast,
Yeah.
they shocked me. Like if you look at the CO2 consumption comparison, transport is doing 5% and fast fashion is actually 10%. The fact that it makes like half of a millions of tons of microplastics in the environment and etc. is just like crazy.
It, yes, I think I wouldn't say that fashion was always super, how do you say, climate or
Mm,
earth friendly. But what fast fashion did was kind of like, it's almost like being on drugs. It just went whoop. They kind of took a model which was pretty okay. Like historically, if you see fashion, it didn't happen like every 2 weeks, or it's a very rapid cycle. For I think an average collection they launch is I would say every 2 months or every 1 month, they have some new product. Even if it's not a collection, there's some mini capsule collection, limited edition, I don't know, some new term that may have come across now. Usually, like historically, fashion was done according to seasons, which was logical because you have summer, you need summer clothes, you need winter clothes. And I think maybe somewhere like India, where I come from, Bombay, it's mostly just summer. So you had like a resort wear or festive wear, since we have a huge wedding market. But that was it. Those were the only two times that a luxury fashion house would showcase something, and then it would be available to the consumers on a very slow cycle. It would take a few weeks or months, rather, not even a weeks, months, for that collection to then come to stores. Fast fashion has just blown that in the air. You can see something on the ramp and then have it within the store within in a question of weeks. So I think with fast fashion, people have to understand that the model is flawed. So whether they make it from sustainable materials, whether they make it ethically, which they don't, let me be clear, they don't. They say that they do, but they don't. But even if that was the case, even if they did actually make everything from sustainable materials and paid their workers fairly, the model won't sustain, because the model is that you have to get cheap clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you pay your workers ethically, you cannot afford to sell something for 5 euros. It's not possible. It's an antithesis. Like the fast fashion model and ethicalness will never be compatible. So the whole model has to change. And as a company, most of the companies, they don't want to do that, because that would mean that it would affect their bottom line, which is massive. So if you're usually, I think most brands, no, small brands, they have, I would say, 30 to 50% margin. That allows us, for instance, I'll give you my example. I have to pay my workers, I have to bring the clothes to France, I also have to spend a bit on marketing, pop-ups, etc. So that kind of margin allows me to pay for all of that, and also then allow me to pay for myself if I have people who are on salary, or in this case it's just me, to also draw a salary and make a living. But in case of fast fashion, the disparity is so high that their workers are paid in cents, which in today's world, even I think I've heard some people say, oh, but the price of exchange, the currency in that country is low. But even in India, if you're getting paid, I don't know, 35 cents, that's not a lot. Even with the currency exchange, whatever you say, I think people have this view of third world countries as supremely cheap places, but that's not the case. In most cases in India, the prices are almost at par. I wouldn't say they're as high as Europe, but they're pretty high. Like you need at least 30,000, whatever the currency is, of that country to live a fair life, in the sense that you can have an education, you can cater to your family, you can cater to kids. So a lot of people are working towards it. But I think the problem of fast fashion is just that uh, optics. They want people to think that they are trying to change, like they are doing a lot, they spend a lot of money on greenwashing. But if the brands spend that money on the workers, I think we would actually see some change. So for me, I don't see how, at the scale at which fast fashion operates and the price points at which they operate, how can they actually be sustainable and then be ethical? It's almost incompatible. It's like capitalism and, I don't know, like worker rights. It's
Yeah,
it's it's clashing concepts. So for me, it's unless we completely change the model, it's never going to happen.
absolutely. Now, when I'm looking at this part of the numbers, which I just mentioned, this is only for the environment. So this is eco issue with the fast fashion. And I don't even want to imagine what is it about, like exploiting people for like a workforce, etc., which is crazy, as we all know. Is it point maybe boycotting those brands, or do you think that we should like still buy?
So, like I said, I think one of the points that you discussed was that I don't think it's a black and white solution, because I do think that boycotting the brands could be a good option. Because I've often heard this from people in my circle, or people I know. They say that we can't afford sustainable brands, or we can't afford ethical brands. They are a bit more expensive. Now you have to understand that it's not that you can't afford it, it's just that we have somehow gotten into this habit of buying so many clothes that we have a budget of, say, let's say 300 euros a quarter, or let's say 6 months. It's maybe it's more, I'm assuming it's 300. But what we expect is that we should be able to buy 10 clothes in that 300 euros. But we have to understand that there are people behind your clothes. It's not just about trends, it's not just about looking fashionable, and it's nothing wrong with it. But you have to kind of question whether, if you were working as a garment worker, would that be a fair life for you to earn that little so that someone else looks good? So I think these are some ethical questions, and that would mean essentially changing our consumption habits. It's not whether you boycott the brands or not. It's just we have to start looking at things from a global perspective. And also, I think there are many options now, especially available. If you can't afford necessarily, let's say, sustainable brands, you can always shop secondhand, which is not super expensive, which is at a similar, let's say, price point of fast fashion. So you always have alternatives. You can always do like a clothing swap with your friends, because as you know, there are a lot of pieces in our wardrobe which we also forget because we have so many pieces. So you can just kind of maybe swap your organize like a fun evening with your friends and just swap clothes that you don't wear anymore. And then obviously you can also support if you can afford. And I think most of us fall in the we can afford category, even though we think that we can't. Maybe you don't have to buy something every month from a particular brand, but whenever you buy something, make sure it's good quality so that you will wear that for a long time. Don't I think we have to look at clothes from not, oh, I'm buying this, and after the next summer, I'm gonna look for something new. Just because the fashion industry globally also, now this is historic. No matter when fashion has existed or it has operated, it has always operated from a scarcity point of view, or just telling you that you're not good enough, you require this thing to be cool or pretty or whatever, glamorous, on trend, you can choose it. So I think that needs to change. We have to look at what I want to wear, what is my personality. Am I someone who likes colors, who doesn't like colors? Do I like, I don't know, athleisure clothes? Do I like something more bohemian? So I think we have to focus on finding our style, and then buying clothes that we are never going to throw away, because you as a person don't change, your style doesn't change every millennia. So just, I think, buy clothes that you know you're going to wear them for a long time. And even if something does happen, I think we really need to start mending our clothes, because we throw away things very easily. From where I come from, honestly, this was new to me when I came here. Like, in India, repairing services are quite cheap, because also we don't have labor laws, which is one of the reasons they are cheap. I'm not saying it's right, but you will find a lot of, like, when you go to markets, you'll just find a lot of small shops that do repairing services. Like, you can get your pant repaired, you can get your button repaired. And a lot of people, at least from where I live, they do actually use these services rather than just throwing it out. So what I think would be a great solution also in Europe, which needs to be subsidized by the government, obviously, is to have these kind of reparation services, and to have them cheap, so that people don't say, okay, I'll just buy something new in the same price. So kind of subsidize these services at the beginning so that more people use it, and then it kind of gets it rolling. But really invest in kind of keeping clothes into our houses and not in the landfills for as long as possible. So I think it has to be a global solution. I do think, I don't know if I should say boycott, because I'm not sure that would work for everyone, because not everyone has necessarily the income, which is true. But don't, if you're buying even from a fast fashion brand, just, I think just make sure you treasure what you're buying, and they fit with your values. I do think honestly in today's world we could do without them, because we also have the same clothes coming into the second hand market. If you go on Vinted, you'll probably find the same Zara top for much lesser, because people buy and they wear it for 2 months and they put it back on the app. So I think it has to be a global change. It can't be just one solution.
Yeah, I agree, because this is like the economical branch and it's all like in little chain. So if you break just one part of it, I believe everything will just sort of crash down. So it needs to be systematical. France is doing good there, because as I heard, your government is now actually paying for those little repairs on clothing and on shoes. So that's, I mean, that's amazing. And I hope that more countries will actually follow your example.
I hope so too. And on a more ethical side, there is, I don't know if they've presented it yet, but there is a petition which was by Good Clothes Fair Pay, which requires a lot of European citizen signatures. They're trying to reach 1 million. I saw it last week, so maybe the deadline is over. It's almost getting over. So this would be the chance for anyone to kind of sign this petition so that it can eventually be passed as a law. It can be presented to the legislation, and then we can see how to go about it. But I think we should definitely look at these laws that are coming into place, and I think that power resides with people to just be aware of what's happening, and to demand for change, because governments, as you know, don't willingly benevolently do stuff. So I think we have to push for it. And that would also eventually mean that the fast fashion businesses would have to, they won't have an option, but they'll have to change their business model. And I think that's where we should be going.
That's great. If you have a link of that survey, it's not survey, it's like a
It's a petition, you can sign
petition,
up.
right? So if you have a link, please send it to me, and then I will link this into our podcast episode.
I
So
will.
you can read it into the description and go there and sign up.
I
So
will.
now, when we tackle all of those issues, do you see any sort of obstacles in your way, since you are dealing with sustainable fashion business model?
Yeah. Yes. I think so. What I've noticed, and I think what I'm saying on my scale, I'm not necessarily saying on a larger scale, is that, like I said, people want things to be sustainable, they want it to be ethical, but they still want it to be at a price point that is not feasible for a business. Like for instance, if I'm selling a jacket, I think my the first collection, it was 130 euros. Now you have to understand, I am actually pricing it lower than what I should, because it's my first year. But people come up to me like, oh, it's beautiful, but it's too expensive. But it's expensive for a reason. It's not just expensive because it's not made cheaply. The artisans are being paid a fair wage. They are I think I or most brands, not just me, I think most brands that work with artisans and are from Europe, we at least pay 5x, if not more, than what the market price is. It's I make sure that what I source, for instance, the cotton is certified, it's got certified, it's naturally dyed. The factories that I work with are they have a fair trade or a god certification, so they also pay their workers fairly. So it's a chain. So there's no cheap sourcing, or there's none of that happening. So the reason the cost of the product is that high is because it's being made with quality, is being made ethically. So I think one of the things that I've noticed on a small scale is there is a lot of interest in sustainable fashion, but I think there is a little bit of delay in action towards that. So I see a lot of small brands, honestly, around me that I've been following or within our community shut down because of that, because we don't have enough sales, we don't have enough rolling capital to keep going on. So I think that needs to change. Like really, if you can afford it, really try to support small brands, because I think we are the ones that are kind of making a lasting change. uh, Support small brands within your community. It doesn't even have to be like a big brand or on a different country. You can start small, you can start within your community, and just support brands that are trying to do something that is in the right direction, rather than mega fast fashion brands. I think we have to really start um putting our money where our values are. Like we have to think of what kind of a world we want to build. Do we want it to be sustainable and equal for all? Then we have to start supporting projects that align with those values. And I'm not just saying fashion, I'm saying in food, in even with books, in how we buy stuff online. Like if you're buying from Amazon, which I do sometimes, in all honesty, I'm not perfect either. Sometimes I live in the countryside, I don't find all the necessary things. But to buy things that you really need, and if you buy it from an unethical source, which sometimes I think we all do, we are human, but at least majority of the time try to support brands that are actually doing things that are they're doing it right.
Absolutely. And I will just add one more thing, and that is change in our mindset. Because once you buy something that is sustainable and something of a high quality, it's not going to fall apart as a regular piece of clothing that you will buy in some other fast fashion brands, which I don't even want to mention now. Everyone probably know who they are. So that's why I like to always look at my mother's clothes. Then she was younger, so that was like 40 years ago. The color is the same, the texture is the same, the quality is still there, versus the
Yeah.
clothes which I buy now, and they are like, after one season you can definitely put them in a trash.
Also, I would add that taking care of our clothes, because I think with washing machine, what we are now doing is we wash our clothes more often than it's required to. We wash them at very high temperatures. So, like me, I work with a lot of natural dyes, and it does take a little bit of, I wouldn't say effort necessarily, but you have to wash it in a certain way so that the colors don't bleed, because you have to understand that like this is probably azo free or chemically dyed. This has a lot of chemicals that fixes the color to your fabric. When you use natural dyes, we don't use those chemicals, we use natural fixers which are not as strong. So you can't wash it at like 60 or 90 degree with a very harsh detergent, then the color is going to bleed. So you have to also which I'm trying to do. When every time I make a sale, I have a care guide on my website which explains how you're supposed to take care of the garments. And I think that also we have to, like you said, it's a mindset change. We have to value our clothes. I remember that used to happen when I was younger. Like in India, my family was not super rich or anything, so we would honestly, I would get two clothes a year maximum. So one was on my birthday, and one was like if on Diwali, which is like the biggest festival, or if there is a wedding or something in the house, then you don't get it for Diwali, or you wear the same thing. So that I grew up with that for in all like almost all the 90s, you know. So we would not wash it very often. If it's something delicate, we would wash it by hand, we would not throw it in the machine. And by the time I was in university, which is when most of the fast fashion brands and also kind of capitalism really skyrocketed in India, Now if you see, none of it's all these practices are slowly dying. So even in India now, the consumption patterns have changed. You'll see, like you said, you go to your mom's closet. If I go to my mom's closet, because she takes care of her clothes, you'll see saris which are like as old as I am, probably 33 years old, and they look the same. But it's because she values the clothes. She doesn't think of them as just, okay, let me just throw it out and it's fine. Even if something tears, she'll repair it. If it's not repairable, she'll make something for the house with it. So it's really a mindset of saying that, okay, this has value and I'm going to kind of give it value till as long as I can. And I think that if everyone starts doing that, I think we would have a much better chance at kind of saving the planet. But also to say that we can't expect individuals to solve everything. The responsibility should also lie on the brands. So that is where then activism comes in, or when if activism is too hardcore, just kind of supporting organizations who are already doing the activism, just supporting them either by giving them donations or just joining these organizations, spreading their message. There's a lot of ways to support them, but I think that's how we'll get brands and policies to change. And that is also important. So it's both. You have to have individual action, but you should also look through individual action, maybe force or put pressure for systemic change. So it can't be just one of the, it has to be both.
Perfect. This is so educational. I mean,
So
I'm always enjoying
doing like,
listening to you in your like your wisdom here. So I think that our listeners and slash viewers will do the same. I'll just very quickly check the other question that I have prepared for you.
I'll try to keep my answers short. I do get long, long
No, speak, girl.
monologue.
So what I wanted to ask, what is it that you want to ultimately achieve with your brand, or maybe some kind sort of a future vision for Buno Behen?
I think what I would, my short-term vision is to have a salary from the brand, which I currently don't. So to
Same.
actually it's the story of all, I think, small businesses life. So really, hopefully make it like I am doing it full time for now, but I also rely on my savings. So actually have look at it, make it like sustainable in terms of a business model, really have it working in that sense. And then my second one is more related towards my dream. I would love to have my own kind of a production unit, but not just a production. I would like to make it an association in Goa where artisans can then come, they can be trained. If we have some kind of a living space on the facility, that would be great. But really have something where we are making a difference in the lives of women more in a more direct way. But that is a long-term vision. I need to first kind of make the business sustainable, which I hope. I just got some funding, which has been great. It's not a huge amount, but still, it's a starting point, and that also means that people see value in what I do. And I hope that as we grow, maybe people will actually start putting their money where they in the kind of world they want to see. And I hope for not just for my brand, but for most small sustainable brands, that we do have a future and we do kind of become self-sustainable. And I that's my hope for my brand as well. And I would love for, through my brand and through brands who are working in the craft community, to also kind of show the culture of India. Because I do think this is one of the positives in our culture, the craft community, because crafts by themselves, a lot of the crafts are sustainable, because these are not crafts that were invented now. They have been in, so some of them are really, they're hundreds and hundreds of years old. Like some of them came with Mughals. So there's a fusion aspect to it where cultures kind of melded together. Some of them, I don't know if you know about the Swadeshi movement, which was also linked to colonization and taking some of the power back. So all of these things are kind of interlinked. And the craft communities, it is actually a community. A lot of the crafts are practiced by women, and they are practiced in their homes or within community centers. And I think if you follow, or if you're into conscious living at all, that's the kind of road we are trying to take globally, to move away from super capitalistic model, look at more local community based models. And I think that the craft community in India could be a good role model, or just is inspirational, aspirational to kind of have that kind of a model of production. So that's my other long-term goal that I hope happens.
The way that you are doing it right now, I have no doubt that you will actually reach that end goal for your business and for your brand. Yeah, finger crossed. The last question is actually more related to entrepreneurs. So, since I always talk about entrepreneurship, especially for the people who are just starting in these small business areas, do you have any piece of advice for them?
I mean, I won't pretend that I have everything sorted, but I think for me, what has really helped is finding your community, because that, I think, especially if you're a small business, you don't have huge budget, you're kind of doing everything yourself, or with a few employees. Finding your community really helps, because it helps you not feel so alone, because it is difficult. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. Entrepreneurship is difficult, but it is also satisfying and rewarding. So don't be in a hurry, because most small businesses become profitable, if you say, on an average after 3 years. If you're a service based project or a business, then probably sooner, because you're not spending that much. But just keep going, find your community, and just believe in it. Like, it might take some time, you might have to pivot a lot, and be open to pivoting also. But I think just do something that you feels like you, because I think that's, if it gets tough, then that helps. Your personal connection to a project, that kind of helps to keep on going in those times when you just want to give up and be like, this is it. But I think, yeah, that would be my advice, that just find something that you
Perfect.
really love. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this. I absolutely believe that this will be helpful for all the newbie entrepreneurs listening to our podcast episode. And just for the end, I wanted to ask you how and where can we support your brand?
The main part that we come
Yes.
to. I'm kidding. So I have a website. It's called www.bunobehen.com, and you can buy my products online. We ship to most locations. I mean, we ship worldwide, and we are also trying. I will be doing a crowdfunding campaign, but it's gonna be next year, to really push the project forward. So I think just follow us on our social media. We are on Instagram, also on LinkedIn. You can follow me and the brand. And just kind of, even if you can't buy from us, you can always share our stories, and you can always recommend the brand. So just, I would say my website, our website, the brand website, and Instagram. I see that's where most of our communication happens. So do follow us. The links, I hope Ivana will
Yeah,
put.
I will put all of them in the description. I saw your clothes, so I can definitely guarantee people that it's like you will not find that kind of clothes on the market or in the regular shops. It's very unique, it's very beautiful. Some of the pieces are so creative and unique. So I really encourage you to look at the web shop. And if nothing else, just follow on the social media and spread the word. Maithili, thank you so much for your time and the effort for filming this episode. Croatian friends like combination. Do you have maybe any last thoughts, maybe any questions for me or whatever you wanna add?
I think I love your project. I think it's beautiful that you're trying to bring and kind of foster entrepreneurship in Croatia. I would just say that I think as women, especially whether we're of women of color or not, or like just women everywhere in the world, I think we need to stick together because we know that globally the world is not skewed towards us. So I think the more we kind of support each other monetarily, just through network, anyway, emotionally, however you can, I think it would be better. And I love that you are kind of trying to do that in Croatia, and I hope for you also that you have all the success, and then we maybe 5 years on we do this again and we are just like, yeah, we made it.
Partnership for sure.
Yes. So I that would be my parting thought, that I think we are stronger together and we should try and support as many women owned and queer community owned businesses as we can.
Definitely. Thank you so much for your best wishes for my business as well. Thank you for participating once again, and I hope we will meet again soon. If nothing
Yes,
like this on Zoom, and we can share more lessons either on fashion part or the entrepreneurial part.
always. For you, I'm always available. So I'm
Thank you.
more than happy to do that.
And
Exactly.
thank you for our listeners. If you have any questions, you can write DM Maithili or DM me, and then we will share with each other and answer on all of them. So please feel free. Maithili, thank you, and then we'll hear later.
Thank you so much. Bye.